right, guys, last one. I think it's going to be the last one. I really thought episode 5 was going to be the last one. I keep on getting questions and some different things, so I'm going to go over some really quick, simple questions that I have. It's going to be all over the place, but it's just like all the little bitty other things that maybe I didn't think about, or that someone thought about, or even something I thought about. So let's dive on in. Like I said, if this is your first time watching this is my 6th episode. I've got 5 other ones that talk about all kinds of things on the Kohlinger side. Still have a couple guys that I want to have on and hear their point of view and sit down with them. So I will have those guys. It just might be later on. All right, so one of the things, questions I get a lot is like, how much do I bring? This is a tough one. Not for me, because this is when I tell all of them, I'm like, man, bring everything you want to bring. And I tell them that because it's basically all going to be on their side of the boat. So it's pretty much, how much do you want to bring with you, and how much is it going to bother you being on your side? It's not going to get in my way. You know, usually it stays on your side, so it doesn't really matter to me. Most guys, myself included, usually have some place for you to put some of your other stuff. The only times I sometimes don't is in the summertime, and ask them about that. The summertime is different because of how much ice and things we bring. Sometimes we use a different cooler or a back container to bring, hold 40 pounds of ice when it's really, really hot. Other than that, I usually have an open, but there's certain little times that's the only time I can really think of is when I have a box that I usually leave open for my Kohlinger's that's full of ice. And obviously that's just a fish care thing. So man, but for me, bring as much as you want. Like I said, if you don't mind all that stuff being somewhat responsible for in your area, and it doesn't bother you being that crowded, shoot, bring it. Just talk to them. Hopefully guys will say it's okay. I do know that like a lot of guys joke around. There's like a lot of memes out there, talking about guys bringing in like a giant duffel bags of gear. Like I said, if it's on your side and don't bother you, it usually doesn't bother me. So that's how I feel about that. Okay, so here's something else. This is something else that I wanted to talk about, that a lot of Kohlingers out there really want to make sure they don't do anything wrong, right? They always asking questions, well, what about this? Is this something that I shouldn't be doing? Things like that. So here's one as a boater that there's not really too much that bothers me, right? There's really not. I don't really care too much about, sometimes about some of the casting stuff would probably be my main concern. Other than that, I don't really care. This is one though that does bother me. I'll admit it. But I'm a guy who likes to move really fast and run and gun a lot. And like, I'm one of those guys that like, when it's time to go, it's why I don't eat out there very much. It's why I don't do things. If anyone's ever fished with me, anyone can ever, will tell you that like, I move really fast and I don't let 10 seconds go by. Like when I watch some of these guys on the elites and some of these other, big circuits, and they catch a fish and they get to talking and showing their baits and doing all those things. If you notice, I don't do any of that in my videos. Like I don't let a second go by without doing something, making a cast, something. So when it comes to moving spots, like if you see me, man, when my trolling motor comes up, it's like strapping down, if I even strap them down half the time, and I'm rolling. Like I'm rolling fast. So don't be the guy that takes forever to put his life jacket on. Now, I know sometimes you don't have your stuff ready, but here's the thing. A lot of times we just gotta idle a little ways before we get on pad. So first, don't forget about your rods and everything else. Make sure you buckle your life jacket first. Like drop everything, put your life jacket on, then get your stuff ready. And like the worst is waiting on the guy to buckle his life jacket, because we're not allowed to leave. We're not allowed to crank that boat until your life jacket's ready. So don't be the guy where your guy always has to wait on you, because basically he's in the front of the boat, he's got to put the trolling motor up, then he's got to put all of his rods down, usually strap them all up, and then walk from the front to the back. And I can't tell you how many times, 9% of the time, like I'm still waiting on my guy to get buckled up to leave. So don't be that guy. That's about it. That's like one of the biggest things that we all kind of talk about, that like I always look, if the guy has one of those, and I don't wear one, but if he has one of those inflatable life jackets, I'm like, oh good, I don't ever have to wait on this guy. This guy's gonna be ready to go. So, but that's one. That's one that for me, and y'all have heard me, I haven't really talked too much about what I feel like a co-angler should be, because like I said, I'm pretty laid back about certain things, but that's one. All right, someone brought in something about netting fish, and I kind of touched on it in a comment. I just kind of expect everyone to net fish, right? If someone asks for it, I will pretty much net all of your fish, unless you say, hey, it's a small one, don't worry about it. I usually won't call net either if it's nothing that I think's that important or that big. Sometimes when I'm trying to catch 5 and I know it's going to be a tough derby, I don't care if it's 14 inches. Like I might ask for a net because it's a tough event where 5 might mean a lot. But for the most part, but I will say, if I'm worried, like if I see you not handle a net that well, I might just be like, hey, I got it from here on out. And that's just something maybe you should talk about. I've been netting fish my whole life with team events, so I do it a certain way. I will say there's some guys out there that are really, really, really good. And the guys I fish with in team events, man, if that thing jumps out there 6 foot, my guy's gonna go out there and get it. So I don't tend to let fish dive back down underneath the boat and fight them forever. When I get them on top of the water, I expect, this is just for me, for you to go out there and like go get them. If that's something you're not comfortable with, talk to your guy, let him know. The net can be a really, really touchy, tricky subject, and so I would talk to him about it. Like I said, I kind of watch the first time you do something with the net, and the way you handle yourself the first time is kind of where I look at it as like where we're gonna go forward. So something to think about. All right, this is one that blows me away. Okay, and even when I tell y'all to do this, you're not gonna do this, okay? But I'm telling you, y'all should, because I don't get it. So, and this is, and by the way, this is a knock on all the boaters. All these boats, so say takeoff time is 7, okay? I cannot tell you how many guys, like I said, we travel with a lot of co-anglers. I cannot tell you how many times it's takeoff's at 7. I usually, depending on where we're at, I tell my guy maybe 6:30. Like usually I can get there at 6:30, meet the guy, load from, if the line's not gonna be long, but I usually load somewhere else to where it makes it easy. I cannot tell you how many times my guys we travel with leave the house at 4 o'clock and meet the guy at 4:30 or 5, like 2.5 hours before takeoff. I'm telling you right now, if I were y'all, if you're a co-angler watching this, if I were y'all, I'd be like, hey man, you're more than welcome to go load your boat 2.5 hours early. I'll meet you there at 6:30. I'm just telling you, that's what I would do. And I don't care, like, he can go load his boat by himself. I'm telling you, I would never, it would have to be one of those places where it's like you have to load there and we know it's gonna take a long time. But half these places we go to, like I said, especially at Rayburn and some of these places, man, we meet our guys like 30 minutes beforehand sometimes. It's, especially when you're like a later boat, blows me away. Like I said, I could tell you all day long to do that and tell your boater, hey, I'm gonna get there when I get there. You're probably not going to, and I know it's being nice. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't feel bad about it at all. So there it is. I said it, it's out there. It blows me away how some of you boaters make your guys meet you 2.5 hours early. I'm not talking about the ones that like it's gonna take a long time. I'm talking about the other ones where you sit down in the water for 2 hours waiting for the tournament to start. It ain't happening for me. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah, some guys asked about talking. I don't mind getting questions asked to me about certain things, right? That doesn't bother me. The talking, you can usually get a feel of if your guy wants to talk or not. Like if he doesn't bring up conversation very much, I would try to limit the amount of talking I would do. I sometimes get out there and not talk that much, to be honest with you. If you notice, I have a real time talking sometimes in the camera while I'm fishing, like in my practice videos and I don't do a lot of talking, and it's just because my mind's usually racing. It's usually like thinking. So I don't talk. I talk in team tournaments all the time, but I'm talking it out with my partner, what's going on in my head. I don't usually do that with the guy I'm fishing with, and there's a ton of different reasons. One, he didn't practice with me, so we don't go over like what we did in practice, how things have changed. I'm not talking to him about like that. There's just my team partners, like we get each other, like we're usually on the same mindset. And so like I said, I just don't talk that much, but talking is one of those ones, just kind of feel them out, man. And I know there's some guys out there that say, hey, I really like to talk. And I was like, well, if I don't answer you, or if I get kind of like whatever in my own, you know, I'm just out there just focusing, man. It's just sometimes I just don't talk back. So that's a little one. That's a weird one. It's usually not that big of a deal either way. Just don't get your feelings hurt if your guys sometimes don't talk back to you, man. It's just one of those deals where you kind of just, you do your thing. You gotta realize though, most of the time I'm out there fishing, I'm by myself. So you get accustomed to not speaking to anyone out there for long periods of time. So it's just one of those things. Okay, these last two, this is gonna be the last two. It doesn't happen that much, but there's reputations between co-anglers and boaters all the time. Like we all have them. I might be a good draw, bad draw, whatever. Like they know I'm gonna sight fish when sight fishing is going on. We have co-anglers that have good and bad reputations. Like there's some co-anglers I can't wait to draw. I just know it's gonna be a good day in the boat. It's easy. I like fishing with them. You gotta realize you're still getting in a boat with strangers sometimes, so it's kind of weird, kind of awkward sometimes. But here's the deal. In the fishing industry, and this blows me away with fishermen, it's a big, big community, right? But it's really small community too. And let me explain that. There's so many fishermen that don't realize that we all kind of talk, and we hear things and we know things. And so one of the deals is, it blows me away how many co-anglers, and I've had guys come back to me that either talked about going back to places where we fished, kind of bragging about it, like, oh yeah, when Todd's not out there, I go to all his stuff and stuff like that. And it's kind of a bad look. I mean, I guess I'd much rather you just not talk about it to people. But I know when they've said that to people, they have come and told me, and they're like, yeah, that's kind of a BS move on that part, on that guy's part. I'm not saying you can't go back. It's just bragging about it and talking about how you're gonna do that and stuff like that. It's probably not a good look, and I do hear about it, and a lot of us boaters do hear about it. Like, so just be cognizant of that. I know I've had it on Toledo. I've had it happen a lot where I'll fish a big tournament, and the next week I got another tournament back there the next weekend, and I'll see my co-angler back there fishing. And let me tell you, it's gotten very awkward, and they probably didn't realize I was going to fish a tournament the next weekend. But of course, I'm going to probably go back to some of the same places I fished. So even that one time, he was like, yeah, we caught a bunch of fish there. And I was like, yeah, thanks. So I'm not saying you can't go back there. I'm just saying, when you do, don't be surprised if it's a little awkward, a little bit like, you kind of get a funny look. I know a lot of times when you catch a big giant bag, right? And it doesn't take, I've had guys, it even had to my buddy Jason, where he caught a giant bag this year on Rayburn, and before he even gets out that day out of the parking lot, guys are coming up to him going, hey, your partner's over there telling everyone what you did. I mean, he's still got to go fish the next day in the top 10, and he's telling everyone what he did and where he did it. Like, that's just like a big no-no. So we all know people are going to talk. I'm not saying that, but just limit it a little bit. Like, try to make it not so obvious to where you're going around before the day's even over in the parking lot telling people. So it's just one of those things, man. A little bit of, keeping stuff a little bit on the down low will go a long ways. And listen, man, you don't have to go tell everyone. that's the beauty of this. I've never understood fishermen sometimes. If you get to go find something like that, and it's something that maybe you weren't aware of and you don't think anyone else is aware of, like, keep that to yourself. Like, keep that in your own little piggy bank, and man, it might help you out down the way. If you go tell everyone, man, then everyone's gonna know, and you're not gonna be able to like expand on that and like use that to your advantage. Like, that's what's kind of cool about fishing these boater co-anglers things. Co-anglers are going to learn from boaters, boaters are going to learn from co-anglers. So if you find out something, keep it to yourself, go use it for your advantage. I'm gonna throw this out there. This always stuck with me. My buddy, y'all know, Bradley Holman, good buddy of mine, years and years ago, he made this comment to me, and it's always stuck with me. He said, man, as fishermen, what we have is we basically have this glass jar, right? And every time we learn something, we put a little piece of sand in that glass jar, right? That's just one more little thing we know about fishing, a little piece of sand in that glass jar. And basically at the end of the day, you know, at the end of 10 or 15 years, whoever's jar has the most sand in it, they're probably a really, really good fisherman, and they're probably better than everyone else. And that's one of those deals. Every time you learn something, you're putting one more little piece of sand in that jar. You're learning one more little thing. And keep that jar to yourself and keep it full. Don't just be giving away those little grains of sand all the time. It's funny, because am I doing it now? Yeah, kinda. But I gotta be honest with you, I still keep a lot of those grains of sand to myself. So just be aware of that. Try to keep that to yourselves. Try to, you know, we know what we're giving away in these co-angler events and these draw events, but use it for yourself. Use it to go out there and learn on it, man. That should be yours. Keep it for you, and try to respect that boater as much as possible, and vice versa, right? I mean, if you're a boater and you learn something from a co-angler, man, don't be going around telling everyone about it. Like, keep that to yourself. He was nice enough to share it with you to a degree. It's common courtesy. You could do the same for him. Anyways, I hope that answers most of the questions. I don't know if I'll be doing another one of these. I think this should be the end of it. I hope all this helps. And man, good luck to y'all guys. We got some championships coming up. We're kind of done here on our side, down here in Texas. We're kind of through, waiting just on championships and regionals and everything else. But good luck to y'all guys. Hope y'all catch them.